It's time for a road trip. The two films featured today barrel into dangerous territory where stopping and asking questions for directions is an impossibility. The Passenger is a wonderful roller coaster from Spain with awesome characters to care for and one grody monster infestation tailing them along a bloody highway. This is M.L. Miller Frights Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Counting down the best in horror films released from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. According to me, M.L. Miller. Here we go. Number 25. The Passenger, aka La Pasajera, was released on June 3rd, 2022. You can find it available to rent on Amazon Prime from Bloody Disgusting and Dark Star Pictures. It's directed by Raul Cerezo and Fernando González Gómez. It's written by Luis Sánchez-Polack, Asier Guerrejebara, Javier Echeniz, and based on a story by Raul Cerezo. Velasco, played by Ramiro Blas, drives a passenger van for hire that he has dubbed Nessa, and is about to embark on a drive across Spain with 3 passengers. A religious Mexican woman suffering from cancer named Mariela, played by Cecilia Suarez, and a mother and daughter, Lydia, played by Christine Alzar, and Marta, played by Paula Gallego, who are going to meet up with Marta's estranged father. The overnight trip is supposed to be uneventful, though Velasco promises to provide color commentary all the way through. When they encounter what looks to be a crashed space vessel of some sort alongside the road and some kind of oozing pus monster beside it, they have no idea they are witness to a horrific invasion. Later, when Velasco accidentally hits a woman with his van, Mariela insists on taking her to the hospital, not knowing that their new passenger is infected with a fast-spreading, otherworldly virus. The Passenger is an absolute carnival ride of a movie. It's filled with off-kilter comedy, over-the-top gore, and characters that are undeniably charming. It's a film that will have you gasping one minute and bent over laughing the next. This wild and goopy trip across the Spanish countryside is utterly unpredictable, utilizing old-school gore and monster effects mixed with memorable performances. Ramiro Blas is wonderful as Blasco, a con artist with a tall tale for about every aspect of his life. I love the way, in very few scenes, he's able to communicate so much about his character. Yes, he is an opportunist. Yes, his views on women are very chauvinistic. Yes, he is a product of a different age, light years away from the very sensitive times we live in today. But damn it if it isn't refreshing to see such a character treated like an actual character and not a one-note cliché. Looking like a Spanish version of Bosch's Titus Welliver, Blasco is an old-school action hero left over from the 80s. He's a reluctant hero, not first to pull a brave move, but in the end, he manages to get the job done. He takes a beating in this film, but despite his very many flaws, he manages to charm the hell out of you almost immediately after he is introduced in the opening moments. And instead of reversing expectation and teaching this toxic male a lesson, the Passenger just runs with Blasco all the way through, as he is. But all of the characters are made interesting and unique in The Passenger. They're given tragic backstories that lead them on this trip and motivate them in everything they do. This film, in only a few lines of script, introduces each passenger on this journey fully without feeling preachy or overly discoursed. Along with Blas, The Passenger highlights a surefire up-and-comer in Marta, the spunky teen, played by Paula Gallego. Looking like a Spanish Anya Taylor-Joy, I guarantee this little powerhouse of an actress will be swept up and make a big name for herself very soon. She's the bright-eyed heart and soul of The Passenger, making up the unlikely alien monster-fighting duo with Blasco. It's amazing seeing the relationship between these two very different people form in the face of horror and adversity. I've talked about the charming characters so much because The Passenger really does a fantastic job of giving you a cast to root for, but their challenge is anything but charming. The Passenger is an over-the-top gore fest. Faces are ripped off. Eyes roll around inside of hollow heads. Heads are lopped off. Skin melts, oozes, and blisters. There's slime everywhere. This is one gory flick, so just be prepared. But all of the gore in the world can be used, and if the film is not scary, it's a waste of my time. Fortunately, directors Raul Cerezo and Fernando González Gómez fill The Passenger with hyperkinetic action as well as expertly timed scenes of suspense and paranoia. As with many alien invasion movies, like The Thing and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, there's a sense that anyone can be infected, and the filmmakers make it clear that no one can be trusted. This looks to be the first-time feature debut of filmmakers Raul Cerezo and Fernando González Gómez. These two are able to juggle comedy, horror, action, and even manage to give the film a heartwarming edge without being schmaltzy. That's a talent very few filmmakers can pull off, but these guys multitask like few others. The Passenger never has a wasted moment that isn't filled with a laugh, a look over one's shoulder, a bated breath, or a gob of goo. It's one action-packed creature feature, paranoid invasion, sci-fi horror flick that you should not miss. While I didn't find this film to be one of his better endeavors, I always want to take notice when filmmaker Mickey Keating delivers a new dose of terror. Plus, the cast assembled here is top-tier horror. Off-Season was released on March 11th, 2022. You can find it streaming on Shudder. It's directed and written by Mickey Keating. Marie, played by Jocelyn Donahue, gets word that her mother's grave has been vandalized, and she needs to come back to the remote island where her mother was born to sort it out. With her boyfriend George, played by Joe Swanberg, Marie drives to the only way onto the island, looked after by a creepy toll booth guy, played by Richard Brakey. They are told the island is closed off for the season, but once toll booth creepy finds out who Marie is, she's allowed to pass. But once on the island, Marie and George find a fog-filled town populated with people who are more than just a little bit off. On the surface, Off-Season is Mickey Keating's ode to John Carpenter's The Fog, with a lot of dead and buried tossed in for good measure. If you've seen those two films, you're going to recognize a whole lot of familiar themes and imagery. Being a fan of films that focus on a small town with a secret, I thought Marie's quest to uncover the truth among these weird locals to be fascinating. Keating is able to capture that foreboding mystery of the seemingly endless depth of the fog-covered streets. As with Carpenter's The Fog rolls in ominously and covers everything in a shroud of mystery as Marie wanders the streets alone, having lost George soon after they arrive. While much of the film is Marie running around in the fog, it never got old for me, partially because of the wonderfully moody setting, and partially because Donahue is an entrancing actor to watch. It's great to see Keating using so many familiar faces in his film. It reminds me of Carpenter again, who often used the same cast for his various early works. Donahue always plays a good damsel in distress, screaming and looking concerned at all of the right times. Joe Swanberg is always fun to watch as well. A writer-director himself, he knows just the right amount of schleppiness to put into George's character, who is nothing like a strong leading man, and more like a dead weight weighing Marie down on her journey to discover her past. The Battery's Jeremy Gardner is fun as a rowdy local drunk who is willing to help Marie on her quest, and Melora Waters is always great when she's allowed to be nuts on camera. Here she plays Marie's mentally disturbed mother, who rants about the horrors of the island in flashbacks. The opening monologue, focusing on Waters whispering about the island, is a unique and creepy way to start the film. Finally, I can't get enough of Richard Brakey. His character of the Bridgeman could have been cliched, but he really throws a lot of grizzled nuance as someone who may not like his job, but he will not waver in making sure no one gets in or out of the island. The problem with Off-Season is that it feels very familiar. Donahue, while beautiful and talented, has played this role before in the Father's Day segment of the anthology Holidays. She seems distant here. Her relationship with George is vague, and she doesn't really seem to be very concerned about him when he goes missing. That said, Swanberg really doesn't play George as a character many people would be concerned about losing. Waters is always manic in her performances, so I've seen that side of her before. Gardner is always as strong an actor and personality as he is a director, so it's great to see him do what he does here, but again, he's not straining himself in terms of character. Looking at the entire cast, Brakey is the one who seems to have done the extra work to make his role different than what he's done before. Yes, Off-Season is an homage to a great film, The Fog, yet distinguishes itself with enough Lovecraftian oddity to make it stand on its own. It's very evident that this is a movie made during the pandemic. Aside from the bar scene where the locals are all fraternizing in the same room, much of the film is focused on Donahue walking alone in the dark or talking to other actors standing a distance away from them. The scares still work, the mood is prevalent, but for some reason this film felt distracted from its own story, and I couldn't help but wonder if making it during the pandemic was a factor in it all. There are some really great scenes where Marie realizes the horrors she has found herself trapped in, and I love the climax where the monster is revealed, though it is extremely shadowed and subtle. It all makes for a quietly potent story. There's nothing wrong with a film feeling familiar. In fact, with so many films attempting to do something drastically different and failing, it's a good thing. I feel that this might have been a rushed production, and though I was never bored, I feel some might read the film as spinning its wheels a bit in the fog in order to get to the admittedly powerful ending. Off-Season is another strong but restrained film from Mickey Keating. It's got a lot of what you've seen before, but does it in a compelling and creative way that made me look past all that. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Be sure to hit all of the pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.